And welcome! This is the Revanchism. This video is actually about 3 days after I've made it, so I do apologize for the wait. I've just been kind of busy between work and the different allergens that are in the air, and then family taking up time. But with all that being said, let me get to the point of this episode. This one was in response to a comment that, a good friend of mine had on how to break up some of the walls he had. So this right here is a 5 block high segment, and it kind of breaks it up pretty well. This right here is a 10 block segment, and it still breaks it up pretty well, but not well enough. So what you do is you put in just a couple support beams right here. Doesn't need something big and fancy because it's, not that big. This one's a 15 high wall segment. Once again, same idea. Actually, could probably just put a few more somewhere around here, and that's where I feel lucky. That looks kind of bare over here, so there. And looks like we're missing another cracked brick, so where do I feel lucky? Oh, there we go. Okay. So that looks pretty good. And these little support beams down at the bottom actually add a lot of flavor to it. And this one is a 20 block high segment. So I decided to go with something a little bit more fancy on the support beam. It does, the different contrast on the brick does definitely help it break it up. But I don't know. I'm just loving this support beam. It looks awesome. So let me show you how to make that. You start with a pillar that's about 3 tall on each segment. You throw in some, stairs here and there and here and there. So that part right there is done. And you just come back and put half slab there, there, there. You skip this one, put it here, here, and here. Now what that does, and why you don't just leave it at something like this, is it gives the impression that it's actually up against the wall and it's leaning against the wall for extra support. You don't put it here because then it just looks bulky. You want it to look like it's actually up against the wall and, well, adding support to it. And with that being said, if you recall my last episode, I was actually talking about how to design a house. And this is that house. So let me do a real quick fly around. I know that part of the roof looks like crap. That was actually the best I could do to fix it. So maybe next time I'll use a different roof style. So you got a couple benches in here. I couldn't really figure out what to do in this corner, so I just put a shrub. Hey, they had shrubbers. They did. This is what I was talking about with the closet idea. You just push it back one, put a chest in, and when you place the door, you place it so it looks like this, and it's not just sticking out way too far. Moving right along. I kept things pretty simple on all the other bedrooms. And here's the bathroom with good old-fashioned inside toilet. Yeah, it doesn't flush. Just throw some potash in there when you finish and it should help not stink it up. But that's also why we have these bars here for ventilation. This is an expensive house. You wouldn't normally have things like iron in a house like this. It would all be wood. So if you wanted to do a cheaper version, just switch those out with fence posts. Or maybe find a way to do a trapdoor. I wish they would let us put those upside down so it would work, but hey, who knows, maybe it'll change in the future. And then moving over here, we have the dining room. Now, the reason I decided to go with a table this size instead of one that's slightly smaller is because you have the master, which has 2 beds, and then you have 2 other bedrooms. So I'm going to need 4 chairs. So I could either do one table here with 2 chairs and one over here with 2 chairs, but that would look kind of awkward. So I just decided to do 2 booths and a table. And what you do to just get these working is just that. So, moving on to the kitchen. Counter space. Little chest for a few things. You got a dispenser. Don't know how those got in there. And the way the dispenser is set up is all you have to do is walk in front of it and it'll spit some food out at you. So. And if you look at the walls, the reason I did this with the torches is I usually like it a little bit higher than your viewpoint. That way it's not interfering, but it still gives the effect. And as you can see, just by putting these pillars at the corner of your rooms, you can break up the wall really nicely. Unless if you have a really big room, in which case you can do something like this and break it up with the pillar supports. Now another thing you can do to break up the insides of rooms, not the outsides but the insides, is when they get too big, put in a support pillar. And these upside down stairs, they do wonderful jobs for that. Almost makes you want one that had a corner right here to make it kind of square. But hey, at least this way it gives a illusion that it's round. So that's that. And with this design, you can still have your torches up at the 3rd block, which is what I like, and it still doesn't look too awkward. And this is for a 5 tall ceiling, so obviously if you have a larger ceiling, you can push up the column a little bit more. Or you can break up the room into different segments. If you get much taller than that, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to start doing things like this. No, that's too close. Is you're going to have to start doing these arches. But if you start doing arches, you're probably going to want something like this. Or you're going to want something like this. So my recommendation would be just to try to keep your walls about 5 tall at the most. But you do what you need to, you know. Sometimes your room designs just can't work with 5 tall. Especially if you do large builds like MaddRabbitx does. And I'll link his channel at the description of this video. So, with all that being said, I will catch you all later. Ciao.